Hello and welcome. You are listening to Nails and Hammers. Our guest for today is Karambir Singh Kang, who is the area director of the Taj Hotel Group in the US. We talk with Karambir about growing up in an army family, his experience as the general manager of the Taj Mahal Hotel, his selfless service to protect lives of 1500 people during 2611, and finally get to know more about Karambir as a person. We hope that you enjoy listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed talking to Karambir, and it's time to listen and learn. Hello, Karambir. Welcome to the Nails and Hammers podcast. Uh,
Hi, Kushal.
First of all, how's the pandemic treating you? What are you doing these days?
Well, I think in today's day and age, the pandemic is everywhere, and our industry is being hit the most. It's right at the forefront of the brunt. If you see worldwide, there's no travel. Most hotels, so airlines and hotels have suffered the most. So I guess our industry is no different, and especially in the U.S., the cases have been pretty high, and there have been strict lockdowns and stuff, and more so in New York. So, just to say that we are trying our best to manage under the circumstances. These are unprecedented times and trying times, but idea is to keep the team motivated, and we know that this will also end. This too shall pass, and we are getting ready for what's new now because the whole scape I feel has changed, and the world will no longer be the same, especially in our industry once we get out of it. So we've got to be future ready. So that's what's happening.
Great. So we want to talk about you in this podcast, and so we want to start from the beginning. Where did you grow up? What was school? What was your school like? Where did you go to school? Could you tell us a bit about your childhood?
I would say, I've had a very happy and a wonderful childhood. Whenever I look back, I think perhaps those were amazing days, or as I would call it, the wonder years. uh, my father was in the army, so every 2 or 3 years we would move from place to place. So that gave me an opportunity to, kind of every 2 3 years one would get okay. Now we're going to move again, and unlike a lot of people who resist change, I think that kind of was good for me. Every 2 3 years, new set of friends, new set of environment, new schools, new teachers. So in that, I kind of moved all over. As a kid, my earliest memories were, doing uh, my nursery in Chandigarh, where my parents were earlier. From there, we moved to the hills in the foothills of the Himalayas near Dharamsala. There was a huge army cantonment called Yol. Uh, so my dad was there. From there, we moved to Delhi. Then we moved to Pune. Pune was a great time. I did my, I think, fifth, sixth, and seventh. I went to the bishop school there, which was all boys school, very close to the cantonment. After that, I, moved out and I did my 12th from Chandigarh. Went to college in Pune again. My dad got posted there again, so did my undergrad and grad in Pune from Ferguson College and with economics honors, and then joined SIBM, Symbiosis
Yes.
Marketing. Uh, and once I kind of graduated from there, I got a job with the Taj and been there ever since.
So, why take sales and marketing and not join the army?
Well, my father, being an army man, was very clear. When I was growing up in 9th, 10th, oh, you have to go into the army. And to kind of please him, I kind of said, okay, maybe. So I sat through the NDA exam. I cleared it, and then I went up to him and said, look, Dad, this life is not for me. I don't think this is what I want. And can I do something else? So he said, okay, maybe you should, join IAS. So I said, okay, let me consider that. At that time, one was pretty carefree and one didn't really know where one was heading. So I had no clue what I wanted to be in life. But thankfully, my dad was, he heard me out and didn't kind of force the fact that I should get into the army, and I could have gotten in easily. Uh, So I went to college, and college was a great time, of course. And it just so happened that I wasn't even sure I wanted to do an MBA. One of my friends he applied, and he said, why don't you also apply? I said, okay. So I did, and I got in, and he didn't.
Oh,
But so that's it. And from there, I guess by then, uh, you meet a whole lot of different kind of people, because I guess in the army, you're pretty protected. I feel you're in your own little cocoon, and at times maybe it's a great cocoon to be in. I'm not complaining. I think it was a great life, but I guess in that way I was a little bit of a late bloomer. I I kind of understood what I wanted to do much later, but I have no regrets for what I've done. I'm happy where I am, and happy through the journey of life that has taken me.
Yeah. So you started at the Tatas right after your MBA, right? So
Correct.
what
I
made
did.
you what made you choose the Taj Group and the Tatas in general, and what were your expectations when you started?
Well, at that time you're 31 and starry-eyed, and you probably there were a lot of companies that would come. I mean, there was a banking industry which was supposed to be very cool. Then there were these big companies like Hindustan Levers and Marico's and Cadbury's. Uh, so we had a senior of ours who was in the Taj from my Simbi time, and he came and spoke to us about life as a hotelier in sales and marketing, and it kind of sounded very nice to me. You get to wear nice clothes, nice people, you stay in a nice environment, you dress well. Uh, so overall, you get good food. So I said, wow, why don't we look at that? It kind of that is something that kind of attracted me, and I said, okay, let me give that a go. And then I joined the Taj. I mean, they took me in, and I joined in Delhi in 1991. That's the year I graduated from.
What was your first job there? What was the kind of job that you first had
So
at?
we would join as a management trainee in sales, and you would start right at executive level. We were called sales executives then, and essentially you were given an area, a portfolio of companies, and then you go there and you represent your hotel or the Taj group. At that time, the group was growing. I think we had around 35, 40 hotels, including some amazing palaces. And so the job was to go and handle some of these big companies, and maybe in Delhi you had a lot of embassies as well. So they would get official visits, and so it was that kind of a job, maximizing business from your portfolio. But it was a fun trip.
Right.
And speaking about Taj a bit, so like when you joined Taj, it was not the number one brand in the country, luxury brand. How different was it back then? And secondly, how did you contribute to make it what it is today?
Well, I think Taj at that time was one of the premier luxury hotel chains. At that time in the early 90s, India was still opening up. 1991 is actually the year when India really opened up to the world. Before that, it was very protected, and there was hardly any international presence like it is now. There was the Taj, there was the Oberoi, there was the Welcome Group, and that is it. They were the three top stalwarts and industry giants, and we were still the largest at that time and growing slowly. So I mean, I think one has been through the journey of seeing the company grow, go through various leadership changes, and and approaches. And I think I'm happy to say that of course, I've been one of the contributors uh, in some of these big scale changes, part of the think tank, part of growing the growing the brand, part of taking over new hotels. So it was a pretty fun journey to start with, both in sales and marketing, and also in later on moving into operations. I mean, I do recall that I was a part of the team that launched For example, we had a hotel in Lucknow called the Taj Mahal Hotel, Lucknow, and so the challenge was, how do you kind of integrate it within the golden triangle of Jaipur, Delhi, Agra.
Right.
So we kind of really built that destination. Then taking over palaces like the Umaid Bhavan Palace, became part of the team, repositioning it. And that was again an exciting journey, because before that it was with the ITC for a while. Then I think it went to Oman, and it didn't work out, and we took it over, and within a couple of months the hotel started to do very, very well. And it's a great hotel. In fact, I think 4 or 5 years back, it was rated the number one hotel in the world by TripAdvisor. I mean, if you get, that's a big deal.
I mean, one of the best places I have stayed in personally.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that plus, then also various other assignments over the years of repositioning our palaces. We had 3 authentic palaces: the Rambagh Palace, the Lake Palace, and of course the Jodhpur one. And a part of that journey, because our direct competitor then was the Oberoi, and they built these villases. They were fantastic properties, and ours were a little aging. So the idea was to, how do you, one, of course, renovate those places, but secondly, more importantly, differentiate yourself through services, through giving a whole. So the whole culture of a palace service is something that I was a part of bringing about during my sales and marketing days, and again, trying to position it at the top of the rung. And suddenly our ADRs, our average rates were higher than we could ever expect. At that time, 25,000, 30,000 rupees, which was unheard of.
So what are the lessons that you had to learn going from being a sales and marketing person to being a general manager? What are some of the lessons that you gained to become, to rise in that positions?
So generally speaking, at that time, there were very few examples of people moving, into general management from these support functions like sales, finance. Generally, most general managers initially used to come from food and beverage. In the 60s, 70s, they would be GMs. Then front office people started also becoming GMs, accommodations front office, and it's much later, I think, in the late 80s and 90s, that this shift started to happen, where people from sales and marketing also got into operations. And now, of course, it's anybody's game. If you have the aptitude and the business sense, you can be a great GM. But I would say, one of the lessons was that in sales and marketing, it gives you a very strategic perspective about hotels. So I would say strategy. Number two, I think, because you're meeting clients, you are their representative for the hotel. So I think you understand them very well. So consumer behavior, understanding needs, wants, I think you have a far sharper focus on a higher level if you're in sales and marketing. That's my sense. So I think it gives you that outlook, which is more macro. Of course, you can be micro, but it gives you. And I think in your mind, when you are GM of a hotel, you need to kind of have a vision for the hotel. This is where we are. This is where we need to go. This is our competition. How do we differentiate? So I think some of those sales and marketing concepts you are able to bring in and into the whole, maybe product planning, or planning of new restaurants, planning of new services, or whenever you're doing renovations. So I think it gives you a very unique perspective to the business as well. And then, of course, you learn so much about operations, because being in operations is a lot of hard work. And I think I had a lot of, respect for my colleagues who were in food and beverage. They are really toiling day in and day out, and it's hard work. And sometimes very thankless too.
Yeah.
How did the whole conversation start? Who said that, hey, this is something that would you be interested to fill in the shoes?
So I had I had a boss at that time who I directly reported into, and then he reported into the CEO of the company, and kind of both of us were in that corporate position at the same time. And I think I learned a lot of operations and intricacies of luxury business from him. And then during our conversations or visits to the hotel, I would give my own perspective of from a sales and marketing perspective as to how we could position it higher. And I think during that time, uh, a lot of conversations, a lot of strategies that I was able to give that helped. I mean, that showed instant results. So I think it was Mr. Krishna Kumar who was our CEO at that time, MD of the company. He, I mean, he's a marketing man. He came from Tata Tea. He used to be CEO there, and before that in marketing. And he kind of just sprung the surprise. What about there was an opportunity which came, and he said, "How about giving it to this guy?" And I mean, everyone was taken aback. So was I. I didn't expect it, but it was a fantastic journey. It was the Taj Land's End, second largest hotel of the Taj, and I took over as the GM there in 2006. And within 6 months, we had turned around the hotel, highest profitability in the company, highest occupancy. So it started to do very well. So yeah, so I would say I've had some great inspirational bosses in the past.
Taj Landon also was the hotel where I went to my last Tata Crucible final. I think,
Okay.
yeah, that was the last time I went to a Crucible final. It was a fantastic hotel, right?
Great hotel. Yeah, I was part of the takeover team. In fact, I remember I was in Delhi. I was heading sales and marketing for the Taj Mahal Hotel, Delhi, and one night I get a call, from my boss. He says, "Pack your bags and arrive tomorrow by 8 a.m. in Bombay." So I said, "Okay." So I landed up there, and then he said, "Okay, we are taking over this new hotel. The Regent is going to be Taj Lands End, and here you are, and it may be a temporary, come and help out for 3 months." That's it. I moved to Bombay, and I never went back to Delhi. I had to just go back and pack my stuff and move my family. But that's how it used to be. Your boss, they would call you, and you would just be there, and so that those were exciting times, I would say.
So what's a life of a typical general manager like? A typical
Oh, wow.
day in life of a general manager.
So I would say it's very, very exciting. It's not boring at all because each day is different. The kind of uh, problems and the opportunities and the incidents that you face are unique. So you can never be bored as a GM. I can tell you. In fact, ask any GM; he could write a book on Confessions of a General Manager, but I won't go there. So, so it's a great life. I think you've got to wear various hats because a hotel. I mean, it's just not a building. Most of these hotels where I worked in were large 500-600 room hotels, over 1,000 people. So how do you motivate them? How do you keep your team in place? How do you ensure the standards are only improving? How do you ensure that your customers are happy? How do you ensure that the AC is working every time at the right temperature? How do you ensure that the food is cooked the same way every time, and it's tasty and it's hygienic? How do you? So it's you are wearing 20 hats at the same time. You are facing problems. You could be having a union problem one day. Next day, there's an engineering problem. Third day, there's a guest who's very irate. Fourth day, you have to recruit and motivate a team. Fifth day, you have to give a strategy presentation to your bosses. Sixth day, you have to travel. So I mean, it's a lot of things mixed into one. And I would say it's actually like a CEO's job. Some of these hotels have turnovers of 100, 200, 300 crores, which is like a small industry. I mean, and so it's managing the P&L, understanding the finance, understanding bottom line, how to keep it profitable. So it's which channels to look at, how to ensure that you're top of the mind for the customer. So it's just about everything. So I think it makes you a very well-rounded person.
So yeah, right now you had three Taj properties in the US, right?
Correct.
So yeah, so what are
We
the
only have two
differences?
at the moment. Yeah. So
Okay.
Okay, so what are the differences in managing hotels in India and in the US?
well, I think one, US is a very very mature market. Just to give you a perspective, in New York, where I'm based right now. Uh, 10 blocks of New York have more hotel rooms than all of India put together.
Oh,
So that's the scale of the industry there, here. So that is one. Number two, it's very mature in the sense the way business is done here is very, very different. Uh, here, in India, for example, relationships matter a lot, especially in sales and marketing. And, when you're calling on companies, personal relationships matter a lot. Here, of course, they do matter, but not as much. A lot of how people view you or buy you or come to stay at a hotel is also based on a lot of external factors like your uh, your reputation, your scores on TripAdvisor, or various other such rating sites. Um, your of course offers, your rates, your general social media presence. So of course it's changing in India like that as well, through your website. So during my time when we started, you know, global distribution systems had just started. Uh, Revenue management was not even a stream. I mean, we didn't even think of it as hoteliers till the mid 90s. That's when it came to us, and we learned a lot from the airline industry. We used to earlier publish rack rates. This is a published rate, and there was a discount of that. Now that concept just doesn't is not there. There's nothing like a published rate. It's all demand and supply, and it changes day by day.
oh,
So, well, of course, it's matured a lot. I would also say that in India we have the luxury of lower wage cost. Just to give an example, in India, typically a hotel, your you know your wage cost would be 20% or so. In the US, it's double that. So I think that's
Okay.
the biggest challenge. So how do you keep give the same kind of efficiency with half the number of people? And I think that's another challenge that we face in the US. Uh, but we have some great hotels here which deliver top of the level service. And of course, our being one of them. I mean, the Pierre, for example, is a five-star, five-diamond luxury hotel, and there are just 25, 30 of them in the US, as far as I know. So, I mean, that's like the top level of service that you can give.
mhm. So, like the Taj Group has several dozens of properties, but then how do you maintain authenticity of a property, but also make sure that it's part of a larger brand and it's not like an individual thing?
So, I think we've got a wonderful brand architecture as we stand now. We've gone through various changes over the years. Uh, when I started, every hotel was called the Taj. That's it. Whether it was Taj View Agra or something in Kunur or the Taj in Bombay. Uh, then I think we started to say that look, all properties are not the same, and we are causing a little bit of brand dissonance. And so we introduced two other brands. One was Vivanta, which was one notch lower than the Taj, and then another one was Gateway Hotels, which was in gateway cities, and that was slightly a notch lower than the Vivanta. Of course, we've gone through various other changes, and now I think we have a pretty good brand architecture. We have the Taj, which is only our luxury properties uh, and our palace properties. Then, of course, we have the Vivanta brand. We did away with the Gateway brand, and we come up with another brand called Selections, which is the named collection where we have hotels which are unique. They don't need any other name. And in between, we try to do a lot of force fitting. For example, in Mumbai, we have the hotel, the President Hotel. It was always called the President, so we call it the Taj President, then President by Vivanta. But then we just thought that it's on its own. president has got a great name. So it's a part of the selections brand. So we have the President Hotel, like in Pune, where I grew up, Blue Diamond. It was called Blue Diamond or Blue D. So that's what we did, and so now it's just called Blue Diamond, and it's a part of the selections portfolio. We've just opened a new hotel in Delhi called the Connaught, a very historical old hotel. We've renovated it, and the name itself is enough. So we've been through some of these brand iterations, and I think at this moment we just have the right brand architecture that the company needs.
So yeah, this is just a broader question. What does the Taj Group mean to you, and what do you think makes it special?
Oh, I think for me, Taj is like a family. I've been there for 30 years. It's an organization which has great bones, which has great DNA. It's part of the Tata Group, and I mean, we all just feel so proud that we are a part of Taj. And Taj is actually known for its culture, and I think there are lots of case studies, global case studies all over that talk about the unique culture that the Taj has. You can copy products very easily, but what you can't copy is the culture, which is unique to each organization. And I think Taj has some of probably, as far as I'm concerned, it's got a fantastic culture of people, leadership, how they take care of you, and it's vice versa. If your company takes care of you, you take care of the company. So all of us in the Taj, actually, we feel we are a part of a larger family, not only in the Taj, but even the Tata Group. In fact, a part of our grounding, when we welcome people, that's what we say, welcome to the Taj family. And we actually mean it.
Yeah. Okay, so before we begin our next section, I mean, we want to talk about 2611 a bit. So
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
if you're not comfortable, please feel free to say
Yeah.
that. We'll edit it out.
No, I'll be happy to answer whatever I can.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, so now we want to talk about 2611 a bit.
Yeah.
So when 2611 started, where were you? What do you think was happening, and how did you react?
Well, no one knew that it was going to happen. I was at another hotel, our sister hotel, Dan's End. I was attending an event there, and I just got a call that there's been some incident in the lobby, some shooting and stuff. So I immediately left. I just knew that I had to go back. Of course, we didn't know what it was. People thought it was a gang war, but soon we got to know. While I was going there, I got so many other calls of people who were behind the Taj. Someone was near Leopold. Someone was eating at a restaurant close by. Guests in the hotel, my staff, my family. So I knew something was wrong. And at the same time, I think news also started coming that it's happening at other places. We didn't know how many places. So of course there was total chaos that day. So I mean, at that time, one didn't really know what was happening. There was lack of information. So we didn't know how many people there are, how many places it's happening, what is going on. So you had to kind of take stock and see and understand the situation and see what needs to be done at that time, given the limited information that you have. So I think that is what that I had to do. Whoever was there, my staff at the hotel, we kind of got together and we pieced together what was going on, and then decided, okay, this is what we need to do. We need to evacuate as many people as possible, and if they are around, we had no help. We had no police, no guns. We earlier thought there were 4 or 6 people. We had no idea. They were around with grenades, RDX, AK-47s. So what do you do? So I guess everyone kind of acted spontaneously in the best interest of what they thought was the right thing to do, and the rest is there in the public knowledge, of what really happened.
So could you tell us, sharing whatever you're comfortable with? So what could you just tell what was going through your mind during those 60 hours when the army came in, the NSG came in, things were
They
not
came in much
completely in your
later.
control?
Yeah, they
Right.
came in nearly a day and a half later. But before that, For the first 12 to 18 hours, we were alone with a handful of policemen, and that's it. And some
So
Marine
what kept you
fellows.
going during the siege,
I mean,
during the
what
whole
kept
time?
you going? And it's just like your home is attacked. My family was there.
Right.
My all my colleagues were there. There were 1,500 people in that hotel that night. They could have killed them all. So I mean, so what do you do at that time? How do you keep them safe? Given the little information that you have. So that's what kept you going. I mean, there was no thinking. I mean, you had to be there and you had to lead from the front, knowing whatever you knew. I mean, one didn't really know. As I said, information was very partial. We didn't have much help from the police, and there were very few people who were there to help, because there was pandemonium throughout the city. City was in a lockdown kind of a situation. It was happening at the Oberoi. It was happening at the railway station with CST. It happened at the hospital. It happened at Leopold Cafe. It happened a couple of other places. The Chabad House. I mean, we had no idea how many people there are, and I guess the police was not ready for it. In India, we don't have 911. You call and they'll arrive in 5 minutes, and hopefully things will be taken care of. All that we didn't have, so we had to ensure the safety of our 500 guests who were staying, and at least 1,000 guests who were there dining in our restaurants and in our banquet halls.
So there's a Forbes article about, and that mentions about your call with your parents. What was that like, and then what did your dad tell you?
No, I mean, it is something that I mean, I had kind of at that time known that there's nothing I can do about it was on fire, and that whole place was destroyed, and it's a it's like your whole life ends when you know that your family is no longer there. But and I shared it with my parents, and they were in Bahrain, and their message to me is that, okay, you do what you have to and save others, but you will not, and obviously I knew that, but I guess hearing it from your parents who've given you those values, you've always looked up to them. I think it kept me going.
So I'm sure the days like after the attack must have been very hard for you. So what steps did you take to sort of recover from it, and what advice would you give to someone who's like to how to cope with loss?
Well, I don't think you can give any advice there. It's uh, you don't really cope with it. You have to accept it. I think the first thing is there's acceptance. I think a lot of people refuse to accept, and they uh, can get into the self pity as to why me, and there are no answers to it. I mean, if you start thinking why me, then when things are good, you never ask why me. Why do I have everything and others don't? So I think that's a wrong question to ask, or wrong trap to get into. So I would say, what has happened, there's nothing you can do. Time only moves one way. So you have to accept. You have to keep walking. You have to carry your memories with you, but don't look back. Time and life only moves one way. It's forward. So I think I was lucky to have a lot of my friends globally, all over. I have a few handful of friends I can count on my fingers, but all of them came to me. They were with me from wherever they were. They came over and they spent time with. So they helped me through my toughest times. Plus, of course, my family, and so yeah, it was a part of that. It takes time, but I think they gave me hope, and they gave me help in every way, emotional, otherwise, and it also depends on the kind of person you are as well. I kind of refused to they say if life takes from you, then I think you have the option of taking back from life as well. So that's the way I chose to think. If life has taken away something from me, I will take it back. I would not let it knock me down. So plus, I had very good bosses, and support right from uh, Mr. Ratan Tata, who's he's the chairman emeritus of the Tata Group. Immense amount of support from him, and then my CEO, our chairman, vice chairman, Mr. Krishna Kumar, and my other bosses. And they were all there during this very tough time for me.
So now we want to segue and know more about Karambir as a person. Just changing gears a bit, what do you like to do for fun?
So I have a couple of new passions, which I already did have, but post 2611, I thought I need to do something about them. One was, I was a foodie. I loved food, different kinds. So I learned how to cook after that. Before that, I couldn't. I never switched on a gas in my life. I couldn't even make tea. So now, of course, I thought that is a passion. So therefore, I should learn, and I've been doing that very regularly. So I enjoy cooking. I think it relaxes me. The other is music. I was right from college, growing up in Pune, which is a great fun place. Um, we grew up on listening to classic rock. So I think I've started to enjoy listening to music, and also learned how to play the guitar a little bit now. So these are some of the things that I really enjoy doing. Of course, I love to travel, I love to drive, but more than that, as I said, cooking and music is something that I really really enjoy, and playing the guitars whenever I can.
Yeah. Have you done it more during the pandemic now that you've probably
Unfortunately,
stayed
no more cooking, but guitar is something that I kind of fell off the wayside, but I plan to go back to it soon.
So you talked in the beginning, talked about growing up in the army cocoon. So
Right.
what do you think were some of the lessons you learned in the army life, and how did they help you later in your life in the hotel business?
So, surprisingly, when I joined the hotel business, and I had a lot of colleagues who worked, of course, in the Taj, but even in the other hotel chains like the Oberoi, ITC, who were my friends, a lot of them came from the army background. If you were to see some of the leadership and the GMs of a lot of these hotel chains, 50% of them probably came from the army background, which is a surprising statistic. And I think because in the army, being a part of the family, I would say there's a certain ingrained discipline that uh, you know you observe, or it automatically comes to you more from your dad on the way, because you see them getting up every time at a certain time. They're impeccably dressed. Their uniform is they look very smart in the uniforms. Then in the evenings they have a kind of a social gathering in the officers' mess or something. So it's the entertaining, meeting people, then playing games in the afternoon. So it's a very very organized kind of a life. Also, the fact that you keep moving every 2-3 years, so you're moving to different places, different people, different friends, different geographies, different environment, different food, so and climate. So I think it makes you more adaptable. Plus, it makes you, I think, I'm talking about when I was growing up. Now, of course, things are a lot different, and a lot of those things may not apply. But so and discipline. That's what you learn from your and cleanliness and hygiene and all those things. So in the army, when I was growing up, kids they whose parents were not in the army, we used to call them civilians.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
अरे वो civilian है ना?
Yeah.
which meant, oh, they are not, they're disciplined, and they're not, some of them would be in the same city, they were born in the same house. And
So, I mean, you have been with Taj for 30 years now. So, why stay at Taj for so long? Even after 2611, and then why
no,
still stay at Taj?
why not? Why would you leave your family? So I think, as I said, it's truly like my family's treated me like one. Uh, Post 2611, a lot of people told me you should leave Bombay, take a break, all that. But I decided, that no, if I had to run away, I would have run away then. So it was important for me to stay back at the Taj for another year and a half, see it rebuilt. So I think it was kind of my own closure or healing. It was like me building my own Taj Mahal. You know, so it was important for me, for my family, for me to move on.
Mhm.
And so I stayed back. That was the most difficult time in my life. More than any other, to be in the same place. And I stuck around for a year and a half, and I thought it was a good message. One for me, two for my staff, three for the city and the country. It's a message of resilience.
Yeah.
That and I think it was important that I stayed on till the hotel was rebuilt. And the day it was completed, I took a break. I knew it was time to move on. So when you have that kind of a deep relationship and emotion with a company and with what it stands for, it's very difficult. I mean, it's not even a thought.
So, as a GM, I'm sure there's a lot going on in your life all the time. As you said, it's like wearing 20 hats at once. So, is it possible to sometimes detach yourself from all of that to just, relax for a bit? And if yes, how do you do that?
One of the things which is different of working, for example, in the US vis-a-vis India. India, the job was 24 hours. I was
Yeah.
7 days a week. Sometimes we would work 6 days. Here in the US, I think people respect your time. There is a certain time, yes, you have to be fully available. But the time that is yours, in the evening or weekends, unless it's a life and death situation, people would not bother you. So I think it's a part of the culture, and I think it's coming to India or as well. I would say, and I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but overall, I would say in the US you are able to spend more time with quality time for yourself and for your family if you need it, and people understand that. You know, during when we were growing up and going through our, the culture in India was very different in hotels in the 90s and the early 2000s. I mean, GMs would be there 18 hours and 6 days a week, and after a while, you do become unproductive. You're a human being after all. So I think all that is changing in India too. For the better. And of course, all these international chains are there now in India too, and they follow global norms. So a lot of these Indian companies had to change that too for the better, I would say. So yes, I mean, and the other thing is, it's very important that you have a great deputy. You should train them in such a way that they can replace you. And once you give them that freedom to take decisions, and then of course you can without any worry take some time off and time for yourself. So it's possible.
And just wrapping up the conversation around Karambir as a person, what do you think is the purpose of your life?
uh, I wish I knew that. uh, you know I think, as far as I'm concerned, I would like to give back. I would like to be a symbol of hope. I would like to be a symbol of resilience. I would like to be a symbol of strength if I can, uh, to whoever needs it. And I try and do that. I have been speaking at various um, uh, conferences, including Harvard India conference. Plus, they teach the Taj case at the Harvard Business School, and I've been there over 15, 20 times, to talk to global leaders of tomorrow about how to build a great culture, how it is being a part of a great culture that is the Tatas and the Taj, and how people as leaders, that is more important. The organization is just not brick and mortar; it's a living thing, you know, and everything starts from the top. So they as leaders have to, what to have that burden of responsibility to have a great culture and just not be about numbers. Numbers are important. Without that you can't survive. But there is more to it. So I would say, like in the Tatas, we say that there is a superordinate goal. It's the goal is not just profits, but there's something bigger. The goal is to improve the livelihood of the community that you live in, giving back to the nation, giving back more than you take. All these are part of the mission statement, which I call a superordinate goal. So I would say in each organization, all organizations have great goals. They'll write big things and hang them all over, but mean it. Walk the talk as a leader and have a goal bigger than just profits, and because then it'll all work out for you. You have to have
Yeah.
a goal which makes a difference to the world that we live in for the better.
Okay, so we're down to the last part of this. It's a rapid fire, so just answer as quickly as you can.
Right.
So yeah, the first question is your favorite Taj property in India and overseas.
In India, clearly the Taj Mahal Hotel in Mumbai. It's a
Yeah,
very, very special place with a lot of history and how it came about. It's a part of symbol of India and symbol of
right.
Mumbai. And overseas, I would say Taj Exotica in Maldives. It's a beautiful place. It's like paradise on earth. It's a
Okay.
fantastic property.
Favorite guest you have hosted at Taj?
Favorite guest that I would say, Hillary Clinton. So she had
Okay.
come and stayed with us after the attacks as a Secretary of State, and I found her to be very, very warm and genuine, and we had an instant kind of a connection. She was very, very effusive. Uh, so I mean, I really, really enjoyed meeting with her. But having said that, there have been some very interesting other celebrities that I've hosted, including Madonna at the Taj in Mumbai, Angelina Jolie at the Taj in Taj Lands End, Tina Turner. We had Richard Bronson, when he launched Virgin in India, he came and stayed with us. So we've had some amazing Prince Charles.
Barack
So
Obama.
of course Barack Obama, but I wasn't GM then. But he came and I met him.
I mean, I saw the book where he signed his autograph and
Yes,
stuff. So,
yes. So
yeah.
I did meet him at the Taj in Mumbai. He spoke there when he visited India. So yes.
So also, what's the weirdest request you ever had to make as a general manager?
Uh, so I won't name, but there was a politician who was stayed, who was staying in the hotel, and there was a rally that day, and the suite that the politician was staying in had a beautiful silver chair. So the politician actually wanted to sit on that chair and take it out, be taken on the rallies,
Uh,
and I had to somehow say, "I'm sorry,
mhm,
you can't take the chair out."
mhm. Yeah. But
Uh,
then weirdest request that you have made yourself as a to abuse your powers as a GM.
that would be telling. I don't think you can do that, because as a GM, you're like a father figure. You cannot abuse your power, because if you
Right.
do that, what's the message you're sending? So you, in fact, have to be way more humbler. You know, if you, as the more you grow in life, I think you have to be more approachable. They should be able to come and speak their mind to you as a boss, rather than you telling you what you want to hear, because that's very easy.
Mhm.
And then that's a very easy way to make your boss happy. But I think as a boss, you should be able to tell your people, tell me the truth. You are right out there. Tell me what's really going on, without the fear. Even if it's the bad news, I want to hear it. You know, I think that's the kind of culture you need to give to really succeed, and to be a good boss and a good human being. I think.
Okay. So yeah, what's the best dish that you can cook?
Ah, I love to cook. Lamb dishes. The best that I have
Yeah.
cooked is a Hyderabadi dum biryani, kache gosht ki biryani. I make it
Oh,
really well.
nice. Yeah.
I cooked it
Uh,
last week, so yeah.
oh, nice. And lastly, go with the flow or plan things in advance.
I am more with the go with the flow kind of a person because, you know, as they say, plans that either come to naught or half a page of scribble lines. That's a that's a part of a song called I think it's Time from by Pink Floyd, one of my favorite bands. So you can plan all you want. You should plan, but in the end, life takes you in its own direction, and you have to learn to go with the flow unless you're strong enough to swim against it, and which some people are, I guess. But I'm more go with the flow kind of a person.
Mhm.
Let life bring challenges, and then you deal with it.
So that's the end of the podcast, Karambir.
Great.
Thank you so much for your time, and I hope you
Thank you
enjoyed
so
it
much for
as
doing
much as we
this.
did.
Thank you, Kushal. Thank you, AJ, and good luck to both of you.